Hi, this is Robert from Retro Car Guy 530. In this video, I'm going to be demonstrating the installation steps for the LST 2003-2004 model year Chevy SSR hood lift kit. This is sold by Simple Engineering LLC. After the intro, I'll show you the items that come in the kit and the basic tools that you'll need to perform the installation, so let's get to it. Please review the automotive information, repair, and modification guidelines on this screen. Seek the advice of a repair professional if you're unsure how to perform any repair or modification safely and correctly. All repairs and modifications are performed at your own risk. Here are the items involved in the hood strut installation for the Chevrolet SSR for the model years 2003-2004. To replace the hood prop rod and give you the functionality that was available with the 2005 and 6 model year SSRs, where the hood struts were part of the vehicle from the factory. This is a retrofit kit that gives you that functionality. It's fairly easy to install overall, but some care does need to be taken when it comes to drilling into the hood and getting the rivets seated properly. So let's go ahead and take a look here. We have the tools and the kit itself in front of you here on the table. We have the main struts here. We have a extremely beefy pop rivet gun, so that isn't required to perform this task. That's the one I have here. The drills that I'm going to be using to drill the holes on the hood bottom side, and the center punch I'll need to mark those correctly. And then, of course, the parts that pop rivet to the bottom side of the hood. These are the parts that secure to the fender area for the bottom side of the strut installation. And here are the bolts and the various washers you would potentially need to use to properly secure that there. And with that, let's go ahead and start following the instructions. You should inspect your hood prop rod to make sure that it is holding the hood at the appropriate height so that you may install the hood lift kit with the mount points on the proper position on the bottom side of the hood. So make any necessary adjustments to the hood prop rod, but make sure that you don't get overly aggressive with it, because it is still going to be holding your hood during the installation process. But do make any necessary minor adjustments to it necessary. Step one of the installation is to move the coolant reservoir tank out of the way so you have full access to the location where the strut mount will go on the fender here on the passenger side. So there is a 10mm headed bolt which we need to remove, so let's go ahead and do that. I've removed the 10mm headed bolts from the base of the front of the reservoir tank, so we have that out now. There is a clip, plastic clip that goes into this metal bracket here, and depending on the shape of the bracket and everything, you might need to give it a little bit of motivation, but don't get too aggressive because you don't want to break the plastic. So that's, because it looks like this metal, there we go. So now we should have a reservoir tank that we can lift up and move off to the side to give us full access to installing the strut mount for the passenger side. So step one complete. The next step is to put the fender washers in between the inner and outer fender piece here, which 1 or 2 washers will be necessary according to the instruction, making sure that it's basically to make sure you don't crush the fender when you tighten this down. So that's the first part of it. But when it's assembled, you'll have the bolt going through with a small washer on top with the fender washer below that. That will sit on top of the outer fender piece here, and then you'll have 1 or 2 fender washers in between the 2 fenders. And then, of course, on the bottom side, you'll have the bracket. And on the bottom side, you'll have a fender washer with a small washer and then this 13mm nut. You do need a 5mm Allen wrench for the top side of it and a 13mm wrench for the bottom side. So let's go ahead and get those installed. So let's see how many fender washers we require to make sure that the proper gapping is maintained. So if we do 1, It's kind of loose still, so let's see if 2. That's actually a bit tight. So, let's see. Actually, 1 appears to be correct on this particular one, because if I can't get 2 in there without forcing it. But let's pull it out and double check, just to make sure. Yeah, I cannot get 2 in there without bending something, so yes, 1 is appropriate in this case. But you need to check on your SSR to see what the proper gap is between the inner and the outer fender. So I'm going to go with 1 on this one, because once I get that in there, it's basically, you know, filling the full gap in between. All right, the top side gets a fender washer, gets the small washer, and of course the bolt. And then on the bottom side we have the bracket, the large fender washer, and small washer, as long as I'm not losing my wrenches here, and then the self-locking nut, thread locking nut. So I will turn the bolt from the top, since that's the easiest way to get the thread started here. Okay. The nut is started on the bottom, so let's get the 13mm wrench and the 5mm Allen wrench on the top. Take advantage of the ratcheting box end I've got on the bottom here. Alright. And let's make sure we have some symmetry to our alignment here with the run of the fender. Now, as I was tightening the bolt on this, I wanted to make sure I was aligning this correctly. There is some movement possible on this, but the bottom side of the bracket actually is supposed to fit up against the inner part of the fender here, so make sure that you bring it all the way up to the side, fully on the side here. But I just want to make sure that I fully pushed it over to the side in case, and just make sure that it's fully aligned correctly here. So it's all the way to the side. And now I will tighten this up. Alright, 1 fender bracket installed. Now I have the strut in its normal operating position. Actually, I've seen pictures where this has been the other way around, but this is the way it's supposed to operate. So you put this on the fender ball socket here, and then you have the hood bracket on this side, and then you are to place this up on the hood into the position where you want it to be, and then mark it. So in this particular case, I'm going to actually raise the hood just a slight hair because it is drooping on this side, and I will mark those. And we now have the markings for where this should be, and then I will make sure I measure that and transfer that over to the other side so that we are uniform on both sides, so there's not one pushing just a little bit more than the other one. So I'm going to now get a center punch, and I'm going to center punch each of those holes. I'm going to then drill it with an 1/8 inch drill bit to do the initial drilling. And on the drill, I do have tape as a guide, protection on it, so I don't go too deep into the hood, because you don't want to go too far because you will go out the outside of the hood metal here. And then I'll switch over to the 3/16 inch drill bit that's required for the actual pop rivet. So let's go ahead and start doing that. And let me get the closed. And I will get my hammer and my center punch. Have those two marked. But we will actually only drill the first one to make sure we get fully aligned right here. Okay, and the tape stopped me from going too far. And I will switch over to the 3/16 at this point. Okay, so now I have my 3/16 drill bit. I have my safety glasses on like I should have before. And let's go ahead and get that front hole drilled. Making sure we're perpendicular here. And here we go. And we're through. Okay. Clean the drill bit shavings. Okay. And both brackets are identical, so I'm just going to use the loose one at this point. I'm now going to, even though I marked the back one here, I'm going to remark it, just making sure for any variance in the whole situation here. And I'm going to make sure it's aligned. Okay, and it's now ready for me to do the same thing where I drill with the 1/8 inch pilot hole and then the 3/16. I'll need to remount with the 3/16 because the tip of the drill bit on this one is just a hair smaller than 3/16, so the pop rivet wasn't fitting in before, so I had to remount out just a little bit. But again, don't go too far in because you have the outside metal to worry about. So let's start that procedure. All right. We have our 1/8 inch drill bit. I'm going to take a center punch to the new marking that I've made. Make sure I'm perpendicular to the metal. I am. Okay. Switch back to the 3/16 bit. Make sure our rivet, yep, goes in. All right. As the airplane goes over. And they're in. So now that we have this one secured up to the bottom side of the hood, I'm going to take this other bracket off, which is similar to other struts. You just need to pull the ring back with the clip that's holding the ball socket in place, and it pops out. And now let's lift the hood. Let's go ahead and put the coolant tank back in place. And we should, other than cleaning up, we should be done on this side. So we're gonna take the tank, get it back in place. There we go. Okay, so now we need to engage the clip here, which we have. And then the 10mm headed bolt. And we're back there. And the drain tube is now unobstructed again. So we're all back in place there. Let's go ahead and do a test closure, make sure we're clearing everything we should, and then we'll move on to the other side. So all I'm looking for right now is to make sure this bracket clears and we're not hitting anything. We seem good. Okay, let's move on to the driver's side. Well, we're over on the driver's side now. We've completed the installation of the hood strut on the passenger side. There's a very similar installation over on this side. The only difference is we don't have a coolant tank to move out of the way. The fuse box is not going to be a problem, so we just need to proceed with the bracket installation on the bottom here, which we have full access to. The wiring harnesses that are below here are far enough away to not be a problem. So with that, we'll get going. So let's check how many washers we need in between this one. Looks like there might be a slightly larger gap, but let's check how many washers fit in there comfortably. I'll take the one that we didn't actually need on the passenger side, along with one here. Let's see if we can fit two. And those easily fit in there, so we will use two on this driver's side. That fits well. And we will then take the small washer, large washer, and that's on the top side. Go through here, then through the two washers in between that we used as spacers. So we should be able to, there is a hood cable there, so we gotta make sure we don't get anything trapped underneath the bracket. And okay, that's over to the side. And since I brought over that one spare washer from the other side, we're gonna have one spare washer here, even though we used two in between. So there's the large washer, the small washer. Let's push this up just a hair. And then the self-locking nut. Assuming I can adjust it correctly there. Okay, let's start threading it from the top here. And confirming that we have not trapped any wires or cables. And we are bracket to metal. There's nothing there. So let's get that 13mm boxed end ratchet that I've got there on that side. The 5mm top, which helps if I get the correct direction. There we go. So again, fully over to the side. now we'll go from the bottom, holding the top. That is not going anywhere. All right. So again, the proper orientation of the struts is the main part of the cartridge to the top, towards the hood, and the main part of the exposed part of the shaft of the cartridge is to the bottom bracket. So let's pop that on. And that hood prop rod might get in the way here a little bit, but we'll work with that at the moment. It's necessary since it's holding up part of the weight at this point. The single strut is not capable of holding the whole weight at this point, but so it's similar orientation except that prop rod is a little bit in the way. So we'll do the same kind of measuring here and then mark the front hole and then get the rear hole marked after we get the front one all situated. So, and I'm simply using this drill bit as a way to align it parallel to the edge of the hood itself, but that's up to you. Pretty much it just needs to be at the edge of that bend for the hood. Let's confirm again we're in the right location. Again, there's a variety of ways to do this. As far as, you just put it in the strut, you mark it. That's one way to do it. I'm trying to make sure that both sides are as close to each other so that the pressure on each strut is equalized from side to side. Just as long as you get them in a proper location oriented from the edge of the hood so that you're not interfering with anything and that they are in the same general vicinity. But try to be as precise as possible though. All right, let's get our front one marked. And let's get our 1/8" pilot hole drilled on that one. All right, so that's the 1/8" pilot hole. Let's switch over to the 3/16 bit. All right, we have our 1/8" pilot hole drilled. Now let's get our 3/16" hole drilled. And as we learned from the other side, this drill bit's a little bit narrow at the very tip, so we have to remount just a hair so the pop rivet actually goes in. Make sure we're perpendicular. The bracket and a marker and get our mark for our second hole. And this goes this way. All right, we have our second hole marked. Switching back to the 1/8" drill bit for the pilot hole. And let's take our center punch. go. All right, let's... Okay. Pilot hole done. Now I'm going to drill the 3/16 inch hole. I've got the 1/8 inch there, and again, we're going to have to ream it out just a little bit, just to make sure the rivet fits. Let's see how it fits. It's a little tight. Let's work on that just a hair more. Don't want it too loose because that's the whole point of the rivet, to grab onto the metal, but you got to be able to get it in there. So we're good there and good there. All right, we're going to now get these 2 pop rivets in. I've got my monster pop rivet gun ready here, so that's fully seated. And let's get the front one here. And pop. Okay, let's... Okay, it's down on the capture bin there, so let's get the rear one. Push it all the way in, seated, begin to pull it, and we have this in place now. So we're ready here down on the bottom. We got the bottom bracket all tight. I have the strut cartridge engaged to that, so we're actually ready to engage it on the top here, but that hood prop rod's going to have to come out of the way. So I'm supporting the edge of the hood, and it's at a similar distance because the other one's already holding up the hood to some degree. We're going to go ahead and remove the hood prop rod at this point. So we're going to remove the bolt holding the it clipped to the fender here. So let's take this out. It's a 10mm headed bolt. So I'm just putting the bolt back in place. All right, now we should be able to do a test closure, confirming that the hood cartridges don't pop off the ball joints there. Do a test closure. Clear, clear, clear. Making sure I don't leave anything and bend anything by closing the hood. Feels fine. I don't feel anything hit anything. So we've completed the hood strut installation, and the last remnant of that was the hood prop rod catch, which was broken actually on this particular vehicle. This is what it looks like new, and there's a couple clips on the bottom side, depending on the state of the particular clip. And your access to the bottom side of that, you may want to just break it and catch the pieces underneath, but that is the last remnant up here. We've removed the hood prop rod from its mounting point here, and it's taken its last victim as far as a hood blanket. So now this hood has a properly designed lift strut kit installed, and no fear of it coming down on the person underneath it. So with that, we'll close out the video. Please check out simple-engineering.com for this particular kit and any other accessory you need for your Chevy SSR. Thanks for coming to the channel, and thanks for watching. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. If you're stopping by the channel for the first time and you want to, please subscribe. Click that bell icon to get notified when I upload new videos. Please follow Retro Car Guy 530 on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks for taking the time to visit the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.